There has been this phenomena that has been pretty dominant in the personal development space. And as a Christian who's in this space, I was honestly told two different things. I was told to go nowhere near this thing or to actually go all into this. So it honestly confused me, and I really didn't know what I could do or even if I could apply anything from this to my life. So in this episode of The Why Approach, I want to dive into this and explain what the law of attraction is, what honestly made so many Christians, afraid of this, what it actually is, and then how it actually has a lot of similarities to our Christian worldview. So what is the law of attraction? This philosophical concept was really popularized and made mainstream by the movie The Secret in 2006. Now, if you ask most people what it is, they'll probably say something similar to this. It's like, I became a multimillionaire, or, something successful in any kind of way because of the law of attraction. I manifested this success in my life because I changed my energy to be positive, and the universe basically reciprocated what I brought into it. And a lot of times it gets super mystified by talking about a lot about your energy, and like the results of what your life is now is because the energy that you're bringing out into the universe, and the universe will bring it right back to you. So it's kind of like, a little weird. So how does one create or kind of show off positive energy, as many people are talking about? Well, it's basically by thinking positively and then practicing self-acceptance and positive self-talk, as well as journaling and making sure that all those affirmations are good and stuff like that. Then there's this whole quantum mechanics side to it, and that's a whole other different thing that I'm not going to get into because that's a lot. And honestly, when I heard about this, I was actually pretty put off. I was like, whoa, I don't want to deal with this. And then I also saw the movie The Secret. And so I could understand it a little bit more, but I was honestly still uncertain what to even think of this. So I get why a lot of Christians don't like this, or are either just jump all in on board with this thing. Because it either completely makes sense to you because you're kind of easily swayed in your faith, or you just disregard all of it together because you could kind of see it as some new age mumbo jumbo, which honestly you have all the credit to do. So this is actually where I stand on it right now. I can see that there are certain elements from the law of attraction that can actually be beneficial to my faith and my walk with Jesus. And see, my gripe with other believers and other people who share the same faith with me is like, we often dismiss concepts, teachings, or some, personal development stuff as typical just new age, demonic, or kind of heresy way too fast. And too many times we dismiss the entire thing when honestly there are some really important things inside of each of these teachings or each of these philosophical concepts that we can honestly apply to our lives. And too many times we kind of dismiss the entire thing rather than only the things that really don't align with the truth. So we honestly miss out on some key things that we could learn and actually would help us with our walk with God. And see, I used to do this so freaking much, especially when I was a newer Christian, and like I kind of had this self-righteous type of attitude with everything. And honestly, I was really, really closed-minded. Then they showed me this verse, and it's in 1 Thessalonians 5:20-22. And it says this: "Do not scoff at prophecies, but test everything that is said. Hold on to what is good, and stay away from every kind of evil." Is basically that we shouldn't be too early or too late, or too eager, I guess you could say, to dismiss anything that kind of like comes off as just like new agey at first, or something that we don't necessarily agree with 100% before we even, dive into it and learn more about it. But we should test it. And I don't mean trying it out, no, but I mean testing it and seeing the results that it has for other people, and dive into the understanding of it and see what's really behind this, because behind every single mumbo jumbo new age thing, there's always something behind that. And then take whatever's good from it and then disregard the rest that doesn't pertain to you, that doesn't actually help you at all, because some things will set you away from God and stuff like that. So in order to kind of demystify the law of attraction, I'm gonna actually share with you what it actually is. So when you get all past the spiritual talk and all of that thing, it really just comes down to three things that you need to do in order to, I guess you say, enact the law of attraction. And so it's paying attention to your thoughts and emphasizing the thoughts of what you want, like a goal or desire. And then it's constantly reinforcing those thoughts and desires through various activities. So when people say that the law of attraction is basically the reason why they got their business or career that they've always wanted, or maybe the spouse they've always wanted in their lives, it's not actually because the universe, willed it into your existence. It's actually because they put themselves in a position to actually get those results that they've wanted for so long. So out of these three things, you're primarily dealing with your thoughts. and changing them to be positive thoughts towards whatever goal or desire that you actually have. So let's say, for an example, you want a successful business, a successful career or something. Let's say you're a business owner, actually. And an important fact about us as humans is that our thoughts always come before our actions, and they often turn into our actions. See, thoughts always precede our actions. And if you think a lot about doing something, it'll turn into corresponding actions later. The person using the law of attraction is then going to make that business idea or the amount of money they want very important and prominent in their thought life, okay? Meaning that they're going to think about it a lot. They're going to have a mood board about it. They're going to have affirmations to tell themselves about that business, to listen to the material about businesses like podcasts or audiobooks from people who've already got to places where they want to be. And they will go find more people to talk about this stuff as well, people who've had the experience that they want to experience as well. So they're putting themselves in a position where they can actually make good business decisions. And it's actually because of this. See, our brains have this really neat thing called the reticular activating system, or RAS for short. This allows our subconscious to change and train our own brain's awareness. An example of this is actually when I got into my new car. It's not really new, but it's a new car to me. It's a Honda Pilot. And so shortly after I started driving it, I actually started seeing all the other Honda Pilots that were on the road. And then even 2 weeks before, I never really noticed they actually were there in the beginning. And see, those cars were there at the beginning. They didn't just appear once I started driving that car, but I was then aware that they exist, so they showed up in my own perspective. So doing all those different activities, like I mentioned before, is actually training your RAS so that you will become more aware of good business opportunities, decisions to make, and the people who will actually meet you to help you get there. It's not that the universe is bending to your will and that you manifested all the people that you met and all the opportunities that you got. It's honestly just because you trained your brain and your mind to find those opportunities and those people and see what business decisions that you should make. So when they show up like they always did before, you now see them for the value that they actually have, rather than before you didn't really see them at all. And along with your awareness being trained, you're also taking action towards those goals as well. See, it's not just that you're sitting on your couch imagining the business that you'll have in the future and then you just have it. No, you're also taking action that will actually get you to that place that you want. And because if you act on your goals, you're more than likely probably going to reach them. And honestly, you're way more likely to reach them rather than just visualizing them on your couch and not actually making the business, creating it, or actually stretching yourself and trying to meet new people, that kind of thing. So that's basically the mystical veil that's honestly been over, and I just want to kind of rip it off so that you could actually see what it actually is. Think about like when Dorothy kind of ripped the curtain and showed what the real Wizard of Oz pretty much was. And now I want to show you there's actually some similarities between this kind of philosophical concept and the Bible and Christianity. So remember how we were talking about mood boards before? Yeah, you know, the off-brand vision boards, and as well as journaling affirmations and stuff. They're both commonly used in order to activate the law of attraction. And it's like, you know, to remind yourself of all the things that you desired and envisioned for your life so that it always keeps on the top of your mind. Similarly, the Bible describes a similar tactic in order for us to actually keep God's vision of our lives at the top of our minds and for other people as well. See, in Habakkuk 2:2, it actually says this: "Then the Lord said to me, write my answer plainly on tablets so that a runner can carry the correct message to others." In other translations, it's so that it's clearly cut and made sure that anyone can understand. And what you can get from this is basically we should write what the Lord has said down so that we can carry the correct vision and plan that God has for us. So whenever we start to doubt what God has for us in the Bible, it also says that faith also comes by hearing. And what do we hear when we say that again to ourselves? We're hearing the affirmations, I guess you could say, but we're hearing the word of God that He gave us. When you hear the promise that God made to you and to your family, you can then visualize God doing that in your life. And I would actually say that you're kind of working out your own faith in your own mind because you're combating the doubts that you've had before with the reality of what God's vision was for your life. Another similarity I want to bring is that when you want to activate the law of attraction in your life, it has to do with your thinking, and that you need to have positive thoughts, especially towards the things that you want. Like we talked about before, the more you think about something, the more likely you are to do something, because every action has a corresponding thought behind it. And in Philippians 4, 8 through 9, it actually says this. Paul tells us to do exactly this. And now, dear brothers and sisters, one final thing. Fix your thoughts on what is true and honorable and right and pure and lovely and admirable. Think about things that are excellent and worthy of praise. Keep putting into practice all you learned and received from me, everything you have heard from me and saw me doing. Then the God of peace will be with you. All of these things that Paul says to think about are actually positive things, and they will actually bring you closer to God's will, because his will encompasses all of those things that were said. Because the more you think about these great things, then your actions will actually start to match up with what your thoughts are thinking. And you are then putting into practice from what you've heard from Paul, which means, from what his own words were, that the God of peace will then be with you. I say all of this to say that you, as a Bible-believing Christian, shouldn't immediately dismiss things like this, because there's honestly some good things that you can take from the law of attraction. I will tell you, the law of attraction in itself, like the concept that it is right now in the secular kind of world, it's pretty selfish, because it mostly focuses on what you desire, trying to get your reality to manifest what you want, and not really in paying attention to what other people think of or the benefit of others. It's only for the benefit of you. Well, us as Christians, yeah, we do want things. No one can't say that. We all want things. We're all human. But the people who have a real relationship with Jesus, who can call themselves, I'm a diehard Christian and I'm not into religion, I'm in a relationship, they would rather want what Jesus wants rather than only focusing on what, we would want. Why? Well, I like to think about it like this. He's kind of the Lord of my life and also the God of the universe. So I think he may have a little bit, maybe a little bit better of a plan than I do or any of us can even comprehend. And especially if it's for our own good. So I'm gonna rely on what he wants for my life rather than just only what I want. So the way that you can actually take these certain aspects of the law of attraction is this in your walk. It's whenever I get a word from God, or whenever you get a word from God, or a promise that's kind of revealed to you when you're reading your Bible or anything like that, you got to write it down. I'll write it down. I'm then reminding myself of it every so often and putting it somewhere where I can actually see it every single day. And if I could put some pictures to it as well, that would honestly really help, because your brain responds more to pictures and emotion than just written words. And that honestly helps me keep what God said at the top of my mind. Now here's where the law of attraction would actually turn into the law of action. Now that we are thinking of it and kind of reminding ourselves of the word that we got from God, we have to take some action. So do whatever he told you to do. And obviously, if what he told you to do takes more than one action, take the first step. Because too many times, we wait for God to do something that he's actually told us to do already. And with most of the miracles that Jesus has actually performed on people when he was alive, the person who receives the miracle actually had to take a direct step of faith in order to put themselves in a position where Jesus could heal him. Take the bleeding woman, for instance. She had an ailment for her whole life. She spent all of her money trying to get everything healed, and nothing actually worked. And, in that culture, she would be basically rejected. And if she was near anybody, she would be, she could be stoned if she was in a public area because she was classified as unclean. So she took a grave risk. She took a very big, bold step of faith, going into a crowd of people who don't know what's going on. And once it's revealed what she's going through, and if it doesn't work, she most likely probably would die, just because of the religious law back then. But she took a step of faith and just made sure, literally, if I just touch his garment, then I might be healed. And guess what? She took that large step of faith, and then she got healed. Now, what makes you think that we don't need to take steps of faith anymore? Whether it's paying for a course to learn some skills that will actually get you closer to having the ability to own the business that God really wants you to have, or going to a new church and getting out of your comfort zone because you know that God actually directed you to get newer friends that were better and probably more wiser than you. If you have focused on whatever God told you to do and you see it often, you'll actually be more aware when God actually provides that friend that you've been looking for, or provides the business opportunity that you've been praying for, instead of actually walking past it and not recognizing it and still waiting for God to do something. And see, I honestly, with this podcast, I just want to help more Christians become the person that God honestly created them to be, which is not through being passive. See, there are times to be passive and wait for God to do what he does best. But there was a lot more times where we actually got to work with God in order for us and the world to actually change. And see, I hope this honestly added value to you. And as always, start growing, start now, and God bless you guys.